Hey everyone, welcome to today's exciting story. Neighbors knew his illness, and fear and prejudice led to their extreme act. This malice was the last straw, completely enraging Ron. He stood in the street cursing loudly, a mix of anger and despair filled the air. Ron grabbed a modern gun and stormed in, taking all his savings with him. Finally, he took down the painting his mother left him and left the city that was once so familiar yet now felt like a stranger, a place where nothing evoked any fear. Ron was filled with rage, spiraling into a tornado of anger in his heart over and over again. His heart was filled with rage, and even more rage. All he felt inside was anger, just boundless anger. A continuous wave of anger swelled within him, unrelenting and fierce. His heart was angry, it was all anger, and then all the frustration unleashed. Subtitles R1 followed the address provided by the nurse. With the last shred of hope, he hurriedly arrived in Mexico, expecting to see a modern hospital, but what awaited him was a shabby clinic instead. Greeting him was a license-revoked doctor named Matthew. "Hey, wanna check out some AZT? You looking to spice things up?" Matthew informed Ron that the AZT he had been taking had severe side effects. It would not only kill the virus, but also take out its owner's healthy cells in the process. With a hint of sarcasm, Matthew revealed a harsh truth. The pharmaceutical companies designed a study to prove AZT efficacy by splitting patients into two groups. One got the real AZT, and the other got after 1 year of observation. If the AZT group's mortality was lower than the sugar pill group's, the drug would be deemed effective and mass-produced. Ron was overwhelmed by a strange mix of anger and helplessness, realizing that his life had become part of a cold experiment. Flash forward 3 months following Matthew's treatment. Ron not only miraculously survived, but also started looking a lot healthier. Ron's previously lifeless, sallow skin gradually started to glow with health. The drug Matthew used was called DDC, and while it had effects similar to AZT, the side effects were far less. This very drug saved the lives of all AIDS patients in the clinic. Can't you buy this drug in the US? No way. What if he sells it? Ron saw a business opportunity. He partnered with the doctor and brought some DDC back to sell, thinking he could save others like himself battling near death and maybe pocket some cash while at it. However, getting through the border inspection turned out to be Ron's biggest challenge. So Ron decided to take a risk and disguise himself as a priest to fool, but when he reached the border checkpoint, the anxiety washed over him like a tidal wave. The sharp-eyed border guard caught every bit of his nervousness, and their suspicion quickly proved smuggling drugs is a serious crime, and Ron's mind raced. He knew that any hesitation could spell disaster, so he acted calm and lied, claiming these were his personal meds since he needed to take 33 pills a day, which just happened to match up to a 90-day supply. Back then, the law allowed individuals to carry medication for up to 90 days. Ron's statement cleverly skirted the legal line, so it didn't count as smuggling. Using his acting skills and smooth talk, Ron successfully tricked the monitoring officer Richard. With the DDC drugs he brought back, Ron eagerly kicked off his life-saving business, thinking these meds could bring hope to countless AIDS patients and give him strength to fight fate. But reality had a hard slap waiting for him. Selling drugs turned out to be way harder than he imagined. First, his deep-rooted prejudices would unconsciously surface every time he faced the patients, making it hard for him to build genuine trust with them. Second, DDC lacked firm sales approval. No one knew if these drugs would be safe or cause more severe consequences. Ron watched in despair as boxes of drugs turned into useless stock. Just when he was about to hit rock bottom, things took a turn when he met Lito, a major player in the gay scene. Lito heard about Ron's struggles and offered to help sell the drugs, but wanted 25% of the profits. After a brief hesitation, thinking about his piling stock and the ticking clock, Ron nodded and agreed to the partnership, diving straight into their I'm not a drug lord venture. With Lito on board, the situation quickly changed. Using his unique status and widespread connections in the scene, Lito swiftly opened up sales channels that cleared out all Ron's backlog drugs, and business started to run smoothly. As they worked closely together, Ron began to shed his prejudices against the LGBTQ+ community. These folks turned out to be far more genuine than his old friends who'd kicked him while he was down. This life-saving enterprise not only made him money, but also taught him understanding, and with Lito's newfound wealth, he rented a spacious studio and set up the Dallas Buyers Club. This clever club operated under a unique business model. Each member paid a monthly fee of $400 and received free AIDS drugs. This setup not only met the patient's medication needs, but also cleverly danced around legal risks of selling drugs directly. Even if the FDA came sniffing around, they couldn't find solid evidence that Ron was selling drugs illegally, since he only collected membership fees. As they got rolling, the much-hyped ACT officially hit the market. This drug was supposed to bring hope to patients, but its outrageous price tag of $10,000 for a year's treatment made it one of the most expensive medications. Data showed that while the drug extended patients' lives, it was unceremoniously bleeding them dry of their remaining days. Dr. White felt an overwhelming sense of dread, but when Dr. Seward faced his anxiety, he brushed it off, saying, "Well, they are all going to die eventually anyway." A chill ran through White, and a deep sense of powerlessness washed over him. Meanwhile, a long line formed outside Ron's club, with patients desperately streaming in, eager for a lifeline. Although Ron's membership fee was far less than AZT's astronomical price, for many low-income patients, $400 was still a fortune. Faced with friends who couldn't pay, Ron stood firm, stating publicly, "I'm not a charity." The next day, Ron and Lito went grocery shopping, but unexpectedly ran into an old friend. They exchanged pleasantries, but when the friend noticed Lito next to Ron, his expression shifted. He not only mocked them, but showed plain disgust, and even made some hostile gestures. This scene completely enraged Ron, who jumped to Lito's defense, leading to a heated argument with the old buddy. "Give me one, give me one." Ron's change in attitude towards the LGBTQ+ community was truly inspiring. These marginalized groups, often cast aside by mainstream society when looking for pity, they were yearning for respect and acceptance. As Ron's business expanded, new issues emerged. Mexico's drug supply couldn't meet rising demand, crippling club operations. Ron had to seek drugs again. After many trials, he found a new drug source. Upon returning to Dallas, exhaustion from the journey overcame him. He stumbled into a restroom, trembling, to inject the new drug. However, the new medication was way too strong for Ron's body to handle. The violent reaction caused him to black out, ultimately collapsing on the cold restroom floor. When he woke up again, he found himself in a hospital. To make matters worse, Richard from the FDA had also arrived. This previously naive officer, fooled by Ron's acting skills, was furious and ready to arrest Ron, confiscating the medications he had been hoping for. But Ron didn't back down. He gritted his teeth and set off again in search of new drug sources, traveling across countries. He faced many hardships and endured countless cold shoulders and rejections, yet after persistent effort, Ron successfully found a new source for drugs and got the club up and running again. One day, an infectious disease doctor arrived at Ron's club, and he was the one who had diagnosed Ron with AIDS, now telling him he had only 30 days. However, seeing those once deemed dead by the hospital alive before him rocked him deeply. The doctor had to admit that the drugs Ron provided were indeed more effective than ACT, causing him to waver and question the medical system he had always believed in. Dr. Seward walked through empty wards, his face grim. These once-packed wards, filled with patients, were the hospital's financial backbone and his career's testament. Now these patients had started leaving the hospital, flocking to Ron's club. Seward felt his authority and interests threatened and decided it was time to take action. He reported Ron's club to a variety of regulatory authorities, accusing the club of engaging in illegal drug sales. This sudden blew through Ron and his members into turmoil. Ron had sensed that Seward was behind the scenes, so to gauge his next moves, he decided to strike back first. He invited the doctor to a fancy restaurant and carefully prepared a gift, a painting he had brought from his old house, the only keepsake left by his mother. He handed the painting to the doctor and earnestly asked him to let him know immediately if he heard anything about him at the hospital. But fate had other plans. On March 11, 1987, the FDA issued a new rule to further curb drug sales, requiring patients to have a doctor's prescription to buy medication. This regulation turned Ron's drug sales from being unregulated to illegal overnight. Worse still, Ron's drug stock had run out, and new supplies were scarce amid tighter regulations. Members faced a dire situation with no medication, their savings drained by prolonged illness and treatment.